think-along plan for a 45-minute lesson cycle, secondary science. In this think-along plan webinar, we will go over 4 main sections. Section 1, purpose of the think-along plan. Section 2, the plan for the think-along plan. Section 3, which SEs to use in the think-along plan. And Section 4, science examples of the think-along plan. Section 1, purpose. Have you spent more time on the learn it or on the apply it? In the learn it, students typically learn skills, facts, and practice what they are learning. The goal is to replicate what the teacher has done, and we want the outcome to be consistency. Apply it, students take what they have learned, and they apply those skills by reading, writing, debating, investigating, and problem solving. The goal is for students to take the skill that they've learned and create. We want the outcome to be a variety of responses and outcomes. We usually spend most of the time in the learn it. It's okay, and it's understandable, but between these learning days, there are times for students to apply it, because that is the way it will be tested. It is also a way that our students become owners of the content and show they are ready. If you're worried about the possible learning gaps that have been created as a result of more learn it days than apply it days, read this quote and reflect. All this focus on gaps and learning loss invites a deficit thinking, overwhelming pressure, and a self-fulfilling prophecy. What if we find hope in what kids did learn? By Irvin Messick. What if, instead of focusing on the gaps in the learning loss and thinking that the year is done, let's focus on what we can do during the last stretch to provide more opportunities to apply their thinking. That's where the think-along plan comes into play. In using the think-along plan to spice up your bell ringers, students will be given the opportunity to work on a problem while spacing out their thinking. Students apply their learning and their thinking in a variety of ways throughout the course of the week. Instead of doing a different problem from a different SE each day, only showing students how to solve that one problem they probably won't see again, the think-along provides them the time to practice their thinking so they can tackle any problem. In doing this, students become problem solvers, not just problem doers. Section 2, the plan. Think-along plan is a plan that gives you a routine. It is a structure. You focus on one particular skill or standard per week. This plan is similar in math, science, and social studies. Every Monday we're doing the same thing. Every Tuesday we're doing the same thing, etc., etc. The only thing that will change is the stimulus and the question we are using. We are going to spend 5 to 10 minutes on this focus area every day. It can take the place of your bell ringer, or it can be done after instruction. It would give us a chance to shift gears when we normally have this weird time at the end when it's not enough time to start something new. This would maximize bell-to-bell instruction and force us to keep it to a certain time limit. You can even combine days if needed. The focus area, SC or skill, just got 25 to 50 extra minutes of discourse, teaching, and practice. In the think-along plan, it provides us with areas to practice process standards, content, and process, and a chance to wrap up at the end of the week to see how our thinking has improved. We will focus on the processing tools to know. All we want is for them to explore and familiarize the content they might not have seen in a while. Select a good assessment item, star release question, as a good teaching tool. All we want them to do is to explore the stimulus, model, diagram, chart, or graph. And the goal is to have them slow down and think more about the problem. This is about the content. Give kids a chance to activate their memory around the concept that we have already taught, but want to review. Think about the academic vocabulary associated with this concept, the activities they did to learn this during the school year, and it's just an idea to brainstorming strategies. So that is the plan for Make a Plan Monday. We will explore it, the problem, the text, the stimulus. On Make It a Plan Monday, we do want to explore it, and we are exploring the problem, the text, or stimulus. And then we're going to discuss what it's about. How would we start the process of solving this problem? Lead Forward has provided us with several strategies that would benefit us in Make a Plan Monday, such as Undercover Agent, Just the Facts, Learning Loops, Choose and Chat, and Secret Coding. If you have any other learning strategies that you think would apply to Make a Plan Monday, feel free to plug them in and give them a whirl. Next up is Tell Me What You Know Tuesday. Talk about it. This is about the content. This gives kids a chance to activate their memory around the concept that we have already taught or they've already learned in previous grade levels, but we want to review it. Think about the academic vocabulary associated with this concept, the activities they did during the school year to learn this content, and it provides another opportunity for more brainstorming strategies. On Tell Me What You Know Tuesday, we will talk about it and we'll discuss what do we know about the content and what information is important. Lead Forward strategies that will allow the students to discuss these areas include Fact or Fib Showdown, Pick Up the Slip Up, Graffiti, Just the Facts, and a Tour of Knowledge. Work It Out Wednesday. Defend it. We finally get to work out the problem on Wednesday. We will not just work out the problem, we will defend it and look at the multiple ways to solve it and possible misconceptions when solving the problem. This will give us an opportunity to look for variety in their responses. It's all about variety. Even though you and I picked the right answer, we might have different ideas on justifying that answer, or we have solved it in different ways. This exposes them to a variety of ways to solve, which is powerful when they see a similar problem. This is very helpful for our students who struggle to even get started in solving a problem. They are exposed to many different ways to address the issue. On Work It Out Wednesday, we defend it, and we'll discuss explain your answer in more than one way. What mistakes do we need to avoid? Some Lead Forward strategies that will help with this idea include IQ Slapdown, Rock and Roll Item Review, Stop, Plop, and Roll, and Make the Case. Think It Up Thursday. Change it. Change it up. You want to mix up the visual or process of solving while using the same content? Go ahead. We have to change it up by showing them many ways that SC can be tested. This is where we are helping kids get better at transferring their learning to other types of questions and make connections. Think It Up Thursday. We will change it, and we will discuss how will this item help me answer another item or connect with another content. If something's changed, how would that change the answer? Some Lead Forward strategies that will allow students to think it up include Odd One Out, 9 Squares, Justified Lists, Hard Sorts, Connect the Dots, Matching Double Trouble, and Compare and Contrast Model. We are working on transfer, change more easily, recognizes relationships. Follow-up Friday, reflect on it. We want students to reflect on their learning for the week. This is also a chance to include a quick formative assessment to see if they can use the thinking they learned and apply it to a new problem. This helps you determine where your students are struggling within the process, either getting started or the solving of or the making connections. It is about competency, but it is also about confidence. Do they feel more successful when faced with a similar problem? Follow-up Friday, we will reflect on it, and we will discuss What are you more confident about? Getting started, understanding the content, or solving and explaining? Do we still need to work on this? Several lead forward strategies that will help students explore this is 32-month summary, mind bender, or each one, teach one. Just a reminder, the purple in this plan equals formative assessment. Blue, process; green, content; blue, process; purple, formative assessment. Section 3, which SCs do I choose? Some content last year, we just didn't have an opportunity to learn it. It's hard to teach. It's important beyond my grade level. So what do we target during this Think Along plan? Think about your teaching this year. Were there some SEs that students didn't have the opportunity to learn? Was there a concept that was just hard to teach virtually? Or in person? What about the foundational skills that are important for the next grade level? This is a teacher learning report. It takes all of the standards and it clusters them into TEKS and concept bundles. As you drill down, you figure out that maybe it wasn't the entire unit. Look at the big ideas. Could I zero in on one of these subclusters that would benefit most in being in a spiral review? Are there some ways, some that are hard to teach historically? You look at data and know what there are some SEs that are difficult to teach. We know that certain standards are foundational. Those standards are marked with a long strand, a circle, and a link inside of it. That indicates the standard is foundational and will be important to the next grade level. These are our foundational skills. The teacher learning report the teacher learning reports work and populate in Edgeforia. PDF best works if it follows your pacing. If not, use the Word document and erase what doesn't matter. You can find them in Lead Forward, under Content Builder Resources, and under Teacher Learning Reports. In this case, we've used the WAG, or the YAG, the year at a glance, to identify SEs we are set to cover that marking period. We can use these SEs to determine information that we can front load during the Think Along plan, or information that was foundational in previous school year, in previous grade levels, that would be a good review of some of that foundational information that will lead up to the teaching we will do during this 8th grade school year. Attached, you'll see foundational skills for 8th grade. This is an 8th grade example. These are our foundational skills in 8th grade. But you also have foundational skills that will be tested in the 8th grade from 6th grade and from 7th grade. This would be a great place to start with your Think Along plan, using star release questions that pertain to 6th grade content or 7th grade content. As a suggestion for 8th grade, here are some 6th grade and 7th grade SEs that would work in each marking period that align with the 8th grade content being covered during that marking period. Section 4, Science Examples. So now we've taught you the plan, but we want to show you what do the Think Along plans look like in science. We'll be using a 6th grade SE 6.8C, which happens to be one of the harder concepts that we have to cover. And it's just not a 6th grade issue. It's covered in 6th grade and then again in 8th grade. Let's start with Explore It, Make a Plan Monday. Using Undercover Agent, we will reveal one piece of the problem of the stimulus at a time, asking the questions, what does it look like? As we start to reveal what the stimulus is, students will start to determine what is the stimulus, what is it showing, what information is it giving us. Once they have the entire stimulus, they can start to ask the questions about what it is and what they know, what information it could be telling us. Students will also be then asked to come up with questions that could pertain to this stimulus. When the image is fully uncovered, we would ask the students, what do you see? What kind of science is this? What do we know about the topic? Teachers would have students record their responses, Padlet, collaborative document, maybe even on a slide, on a document camera, on a chart paper, just anywhere the students can see them. And then we'll ask them to write down questions that could be asked using the stimuli that has been revealed. Teachers and students share and record their responses, and thinking starts to begin. A good idea is to make it a competition for the students. If they're working in groups, see which group can come up with the best question for that stimulus, or ask students to see who could come up with the most questions using that stimulus. Other lead forward activities that will work in this section include just the facts, learning loops, choose and chat, secret coding, and begin brain in the game. On to Tell Me What You Know Tuesday. Let's talk about it. On Talk About It, Tell Me What You Know Tuesday. The entire question is given to the students. Now we've taken that stimulus and we've provided the students what question has been asked about the stimulus. You would have the students read the question and the answer choices. They would refer to Monday's list of questions that could be asked to verify their predictions. Have students think about and write what information is important independently by themselves. Then refer to the given question to reevaluate what is truly important information from Monday's list of items that they wrote down. Have students think about and write how they would start to get to answer the question. Discuss different ways to get started with the problem. But remember, today's not about answering the question. Today they're thinking about how they would get started with answering the question. The teacher would record ideas on chart paper, collaborative document, etc. And the students would have a certain portion of engagement. In order to keep those students engaged, students can discuss how they would get started in small groups and with each other. So lead forward activities that will allow for this thought process to also happen include Fact or Fib Showdown, Pick Up, Slip Up, Graffiti, Just the Facts, Tour, and Knowledge, and finish brain in the game. So what information is truly important? How would you get them started working on this one? Taking a look, here's an example of graffiti. In this case, the stimulus showing was about speed. And students could plug in academic vocabulary they've come across, labs or activities, any visuals that they have come across when learning about this. So using the topic from the previous day, ask the students what they remember about the topic. You ask the questions and they contribute and create their own. What are some of the vocabulary related to the topic? What lab or activities did we do or have you done pertaining to this topic? Any hands-on demonstrations, virtual labs, virtual simulations, etc. What other visuals did we see related to the topic? Pictures or videos? A variation of this is to put students in groups and assign each group collaboratively. Put them into a group. Group 1 would discuss vocabulary, 2 would discuss any labs that they used, and so on and so forth. Another example of a lead forward strategy for Tell Me What You Know Thursday includes Fact or Fib Show Up. In this case, students create 2 sticky notes on two small pieces of paper, one that has fact and the other one that has fib. Have the students look at the problem one more time, advance the PowerPoint slides, and after the statement is read, students can show the correct sticky note in front, or they can hold the correct sticky note up to the rest of their teammates to see if they're on the same page, whether the information that was provided is fact or is the fib. So, for example, this image would be shown, and it says the graph above shows constant speed. You would give the students a few seconds of think time, and then you would say 1, 2, 3, show up. The students would lift whichever sticky note they think that this response is, either a fact or a fib, and then you can determine that answer. So in this case, this is actually a fib. Then you would provide the students a couple more seconds of talk time, so within their groups they can determine why is it a fib, and you can walk around as a teacher and determine any misconceptions and clear up any little missteps that the students have made. Here's the second example. The graph above shows constant speed. Fact or fib. 1, 2, 3, show up, and then it is a fact. Example, the graph above shows increasing speed. Fact or fib. 1, 2, 3, show up, and it's a fact. Defend it, work it out Wednesday. Provide students with the same stimulus and the answer choices. Remind them of the graffiti right from the previous day. Give them time to answer the question and to share their answers. Think and write about different ways to get to the correct answer, independently or in groups or however you like them to do it. Then they can discuss not only the correct answers, but the incorrect answers. Why is answer choice F incorrect? Why is answer choice H incorrect? Think about what are some mistakes that students might make when solving this problem. So on Work It Out Wednesday, not only are they working out the answer to get the correct answer, but they're predicting why students would select wrong answer choices. So multiple ways to solve for the correct answer and mistakes that we would need to avoid in order to not pick the incorrect answers. Think about what are some mistakes that students might make when solving this problem. Allow students time to share out their predicted error patterns, what may have gone wrong in the process. As a teacher, you want to bring it out in discussion the misconceptions, distractors, etc. Another option is the rock and roll item review. In this case, remind students about the stimulus that they worked on Monday. Provide them with the answer choices. They can do this in groups or independently. And each student, in this case, we're doing the rock and roll item review. So students would each have an opportunity to roll the dice. And in that, once they roll the dice, they would have to answer the corresponding question. So in this case, I rolled 3, and then I would have to explain how I would go about to start to answer the question. So in this case, I would say that I would read the question, and I would start to look at the graph to determine what information the graph is telling me. The next student would be able to roll the dice, and they would determine the correct answer and justify why it's the best answer. So each student would have a different area they would have to respond to. And they'd come back together and they'd share all their findings with each other. Now the thought processes that they've gone through are being shared with their groupmates. Change it. Make it up Thursday. So now on Thursday, we take the same question and stimulus that we used on Monday Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we're going to add a second question that is from a different assessment that assesses the same SE from the same TEAS cluster. Now, we can have the students think about and write, how are the two questions similar? How are the two questions different? And what is the thought process, and how is the thought process different in answering each one of these questions? So we want the students to be able to find the connection between each one. So some of the examples, one, multiple choice, choosing the best table to represent just the graph. And in our second question, it's just calculating the average speed when given the information that they're giving. So you have a multiple choice question, you have a constructive response question. First question is showing change in speed over a longer time. Second is a constant speed. Even going down to the fact that there are decimals included in question number 32, as opposed to, well, they're both dealing with decimals. So you have a different look at how each of the different types of math that are included in this. Have students think about, right, how is the process for solving the problem different? Then they would share their process and be able to discuss the differences in the two questions. This will help them transfer the knowledge that they've been putting together, practice that they've been, the thinking that they've been practicing on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and transfer that information to a different question, to the same content that is being asked, tested a different way. We can't teach them every way for every SE, but we can help them think about the process and transfer and become better problem solvers as opposed to problem doers. Reflect on it. Follow up Friday. On Friday, now the students will be given an opportunity with a third question assessing that same SE. Now students will go through the process of answering the question, determining what information is being given, interpreting the stimulus that is given, and then finding a correct answer. This time they will do it independently, on their own, and this would be a form of formative assessment that where you can see how their thought process has evolved throughout the course of the week pertaining to this particular SC. Once the problem is answered and the students have gone through the process of thinking, then they can go back and reflect on the work that they've done Monday through Thursday. So reflecting on the work from days 1 through 4, where do they feel confident? Where do you feel okay? Where do you feel like you still struggle? So the idea of getting started on Monday and Tuesday. What is this? What is the stimulus telling us? What do we know about the stimulus? This will help build confidence in what they know, something that they know something about this problem, and not to give up. On Wednesday, they're looking at solving and explaining. They're looking at recognizing that there's more than one way to answer a problem. So if you don't first find the strategy, if your first strategy doesn't work, then you can continue on to another strategy or a different way of looking at it to answer the question. And again, don't give up. Thursday, they're making the connections. Content may be represented differently, but you're trying to make sure that they have the skills to make connections to other problems that they've seen or to other work that they've done. Again, in an effort to make sure the kids do not give up. They'll determine where students are. As a teacher now, you can determine where students are struggling in their process. Are they struggling at getting started? Are they struggling at solving and explaining? Or are they struggling at making the connections? Not only will you determine that, they will determine that. They'll be able to see that for themselves. We want students to be able to walk away believing in themselves and in their progress. Here is an example of the reflection from the first 4 days. This is called a mind bender. They can choose from I used to think, but now I know. or they can say, they can choose from, I was clueless about, but now I know. So they would fill out this area. I used to know, I used to think, but now I know. I was clueless about, but now I know. And that is a wrap of our Think Along plan for a 45-minute lesson cycle. Going through, having something to do on Monday, where we're looking at the stimulus, we're introducing a stimulus, students are looking at it, determining what information they know from it, and starting to think of ideas of what is going to be asked using that stimulus. Tuesday, they're going to talk about it, they're going to talk about what they know, what they remember from this area. Was it something that they learned earlier this year? Was it something they learned in earlier grade levels? On Wednesday, they're going to work out the actual problem and explain their answers, explain the wrong answers, and come up with a variety of ways to answer to find a solution, and to predict what are some obstacles that students may face when solving the issue. On Thursday, they're going to change it up. We're going to look at a second problem, the way that it's being different, same SC, same skill being assessed in a different way, and the students will have to be able to transfer that knowledge, what they've learned, into the new question. And then Friday, we'll reflect on it, and we'll take a little formative assessment. They will use the skills they've built up during the course of the week to answer a third question from assessing the same SC. And they'll have an opportunity to reflect on their progress throughout the course of the week. Are they having trouble getting started? Are they having trouble answering and explaining? Or are they having trouble making the connection to other areas in that content? This has been a 45-minute lesson cycle. This has been the Think Along plan in a 45-minute lesson cycle. If you have any questions, here is my information. You can reach out. But thank you for participating in